Back again with the crew. This week we have myself, Kevin, and Robbie from the ACC. Me and Kevin were able to hop on and preview some of the fantastic duels that we saw over the weekend in the Big Ten, which we'll get into. But I'm actually gonna, before we even get to the Big Ten stuff, I wanna give Robbie a chance to kind of dive in on some of the things that have happened in the ACC. Not just this past week, but the week before. So, Robbie, take it away. What's our ACC update that we've got?
Oh, wow. Team matches have pretty much gone as expected, score-wise. I mean, we knew coming in that Virginia Tech and North Carolina State were, kind of separated themselves from the pack. Thought Pitt may have a chance to make a run, but NC State shut that down real quickly in their opening match. Their opening duel last week. The biggest match there was Ryan Jack and Lachlan McNeil, and Cole Matthews. And Cole looked fantastic. He was attacking. He was being super offensive. Was showing off a lot of the scrambling that makes him really dangerous, and was able to come out on top and knock off his second top 5 guy of the year. So they look good there. The other duels, UNC also against Virginia Tech, there was also another upset there at 141 when Tom Crook knocked off Lachlan McNeil. So we went from having a number 4 and number 5 guys in the country at 141, both get knocked off in the first week. And then guess what? This week they get to face each other. And that was a wild duel, wild match that we'll talk a little bit more about in a few minutes. But those were the big ones that really stood out. There was a couple other upsets. Dylan Fishback got knocked off by Reese Heller, but he looked great last week. So there's, for the most part, it kind of went to as we expected. The big match this week was Mekhi Lewis and Justin McCoy meeting for the first time, both ACC champs. McCoy last year at 65, moving up. It was a really tight match. Mekhi won 2-0. But they both, they wrestled a really tight match. I was excited to see how close it actually was, because Mekhi has the ability to kind of blow things out of proportion, and if he starts scoring, he really gets going quickly. But Juddy was able to keep it close. And it was a really tight match, so it was fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty wild how Matthews came into the year not looking like Matthews, right? And he's had these really big peaks and these really low valleys, right? He's losing 3 matches in one day after beating a guy like Mendez, and then it's these really high peaks and then it drops off. So, him then going on to beat Jack and then Jack beating McNeil. And then, now we've got McNeil versus Matthews coming up this week, which we'll get into a little bit later, but it's just like, which Cole Matthews are we going to get now that we're into 2024? So far it's been pretty good. He's had, he's taken a loss, but again, very high peaks, very low valleys. So, I'm interested to see how he bounces. I guess just kind of bounces from match to match. Not even really bounces back because he's been having some really good weeks. So that was kind of what stood out to me on the ACC side.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how the rest of his season plays out, because the last 2 years have ended in very different fashions for him. 2 years ago, he was an All-American and looked fantastic in the postseason. Last year, he looked good at the ACC championships, won that, but then just really had a really bad NCAA tournament. And I feel like that kind of carried into this year, the way it started off. And he seems to be kind of getting the ship righted and is in a good spot. He's still got another 2 more big tests this year. He's still got Lachlan this weekend, and he's still got Tom Crook. So, he's in the next 3 weeks, he's got 2 big matches.
Speaking of big matches, the one that everyone was, I guess, probably glued to more so was Michigan versus Iowa in the Big Ten. Obviously we had Penn State, Ohio State. That's a huge rivalry, and it's always been a really huge rivalry. Penn State has certainly jumped levels since it really was a closer duel in the past. But it was all about Michigan, Iowa, and I'm not even going to jump around. We're going to get straight to Sergio Lemley. Lemley has been Claunch's guy all year. There's been no bigger cheerleader for Lemley than this man right here. So I'm not even going to give anything. I'm just going to let Claunch take it away as he leads the parade or continues to lead the Lemley parade.
Yeah, Sergio. Yeah, my dude was out there, just doing his thing. What would really impress me about the match, right? And I think I've watched it 3 times now, but there's a point, I think it's in the first period, where Woods is on a leg and he kind of pops him up and he kind of sits there and he's trying to figure out am I going to pop this over? I'm going to transition to one. I'm going to hook the leg. And Sergio is so active with his hands, with his legs. Everything that he's doing is to try to get a step or two ahead of whatever Woods was trying to do from that position. To the point where, he didn't get scored on there. He didn't get taken down, the entire match, and really was able to, take what's normally a strength of Woods and flip it on him when he got the original reversal to put him to his back. And for Sergio mid-match to have the wherewithal to, be thinking to himself, I want to score again because I don't want this to look like a fluke. Like that's why he really continued to go after him in the third. It was as offensive a performance as you've seen from a guy who's not supposed to win, right? A confidently offensive match.
Yeah.
So
that first position was super telling. Right? Like I even ran it back afterwards and was just like, in this moment, this is where you saw Lemley's confidence really build, because he was in a position where we've seen Real Woods in a number of times where he transitions, he can figure out which leg he's going to go to, crack down, and he finishes, right? He's been there a number of times. And any guy that's number 1 in the country has been in the waterfall position. We've seen it. You know what to do there. Lemley was so active, as you said, in that position that you really saw the confidence just go up. And then that second period, he scores, the reversal and back points. But the next most telling position was that cradle. It was incredible, honestly, because you didn't think he was going to take it over. You really didn't. You thought, okay, he's got a cradle locked up. Most guys are going to sit here. They're going to sit on it. They're going to take the win, and they're just going to go. Right? All right, I'm up. I don't really have anything to lose here. I'm in position. I'm confident here. But he ends up taking him over, and I got to be honest, Real Woods was pinned. And
it looked like it.
It really did look like it. Maybe it's the camera angle. Maybe, I don't know what it was, but from the camera angle that they showed at the end of it, you saw zero space. Zero space between Real's back and the mat. Just calling a spade here. So I was shocked, but not shocked, I guess, that the referee didn't call it. Obviously, we'll get into referee calls this year, or at least this past weekend. But that was a dominant performance by Lemley, and man, I don't think there's been a better one this year yet, honestly.
He's done everything that you would ask a guy to do to this point in the year, for him to be up there. He's going to be ranked in the top 10 now pretty easy. I think he was 11 anyway going into the match, so he'll be one of the guys out there who he's not going to sneak up on anybody anymore. There's going to be tape on him. People know what he's capable of, and so hey, maybe that changes how people are wrestling him. Maybe just that sort of a win and the confidence he gets from that's going to be more beneficial. But he's not sneaking up on anybody anymore.
Yeah,
and as long as he can pass skin checks, he'll be just fine.
Yeah, that's been his toughest battle this year is skin checks. But as the guy that I can remember at the beginning of the year when we talked about Sergio Lemley, he was completely under the radar. No one was talking about Sergio Lemley at all, except you. What happened that made him stand out to you in that lineup where you really pinpointed that he was a kid that was kind of destined for, something huge to happen?
So I'll give credit to Earl, because I remember Earl mentioned his name over the summer, and I was like, all right, I got to pay attention to this kid. And then when I saw him at the MSU Open, he ended up dropping a match to the guy from Northwestern there, who I think it was the next weekend. it was like a week or two later. Maybe it was at Cliff Keene's. He ends up, avenging that loss. He just, every time I seen him, he looks like he's added something new to his style, something new to his game, and some new level of confidence. He's just getting better every week, noticeably, And so that's the little things that I just saw, and I was like, if this trajectory continues, he's going to be amazing, And to this point, it has continued. I expected it to slow down by now. It has not. So.
Yeah, and I mean, the wild part about him winning that match is that it was mixed into 5 straight wins in the first half for Michigan, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you come out, you don't expect Michigan to rattle off the first 5. If you would have said that going into 149, going into 157, it was 2-2 matches, right? I would have expected I would have win 125 and 141. Definitely Ragusin winning at 33. Definitely expected him to do that. Expected Gomez to be Gomez at 149 and do that. But going into 157, they're up 4 matches to 0. And then the match that we expected, and I think we talked about this, 2 weeks ago, mm-hmm. where, it's the clash of styles. And Franek just couldn't get through that defense. Just couldn't happen. It's still wild to me that Will Lewan won that match. It's very wild to me that he won that match because he had the only stalling call of the entire match. Normally the guy that has the stall warning and a legit stall warning. It wasn't like it was a going out of bounds. Is it an action call or is it stalling? This was middle of the mat, hit with stalling for no attacks. If you would have said that the guy that had the stall warning wins the match, I would have told you were crazy.
Yeah.
But he ends up getting out in 2 seconds, right? Like, and winning on that alone. And it's just like, while it's an incredible feat for him to get out that quickly after wrestling for damn near 30 minutes, essentially, what are we doing here? Like, you are allowing a guy to not shoot, to not attack, to be defensive an entire match and only get one stalling call and end up winning the match. It's just weird to me.
That's what's wild, though, too, right? I mean, when we talked on Thursday, my fear was that if anything, Franek is just going to push the pace and fire off enough half shots to get it to the point where there's a couple extra stall calls on there. Do something that makes it look like you're doing so much more than the other person. And he fell right into the Lewan, sand trap where he just slows you down, and we're going to get some fake shots out here, some half shots, and we're going to move around, but Lewan's quietly going to have his back to the center the whole time, and then all of a sudden it's like, now we're in rideouts, and Will Lewan gets out, in 2 seconds. That little sit out that he hits, nobody can stop it. So, yeah.
Except in the first 2 periods.
Yeah.
Will Lewan is the only wrestler in the world that makes Tate Orndorff look exciting. It's so very unfun to watch him wrestle.
Ohio State Tate Orndorff, because the new Tate Orndorff is slim and getting after it like I saw at the U.S. Open. I will say that.
I just can't. It's just always going to be that same version of it. He could be, he could drop to 74 kilos and be blast double in Jordan Burroughs, and he's still going to be the same person in my mind.
Here's the thing, because and again, if I'm going full homer mode, right, from Ann Arbor, big Michigan fan, always is going to their duels when I was a kid and everything. Like, Will Lewan is frustrating for our own fans, right?
Yeah.
But we love him. He's great. He's 2-time All-American. He just knocked off, what was Franek ranked, 2nd or 3rd in the country at something?
Still second, yeah.
So it's like we know what he's capable of doing. And he almost beat Levi Haynes in a similar fashion a couple weeks ago. So he could win the whole thing, and everybody's gonna be saying the same thing. Like, what the hell? Why can't anyone beat him?
And here's the thing, right? If you give Will Lewan 1 or 2 golden attacks, right? Give him a high crotch cut double. Give him a swing single that he can run, to a cut double. Give him 2 attacks where he can score 1 takedown in a match. that's the biggest difference that I would see, right? Like give him those attacks. You already seen he can get out from bottom. That's not an issue. You know, he can kind of cling on top and do some things, but like if he stays on his feet and doesn't, you know, and he keeps his ass in the center after scoring one takedown in a match, and like you said, you saw it. He wrestled Haynes, same kind of match. Wrestled Franek, same kind of match, right? Like you're not seeing the top tier guys in that weight class able to get past his heavy hips and his head and his hands and all of his defense. So like that for me is just like, let's get him shooting something. Get him shooting. Because if you get him shooting that one or two, you know, maybe even a reattack, I would like to see a reattack even. I think you're in way better shape and you're not sitting there like, okay, which Will are we going to get tonight? Because we've seen him shoot. After he wrestled Levi Haynes, I think at the next match he scored like 10 points, something like that.
Yeah, that was the Rutgers one. He ended up getting a major decision.
Yeah. So he's got attacks, but it's just like depends on who he's got. If he's got a guy that has some offense, he's shutting it down. He's shutting every single thing down, and it's full defensive mode. It's pretty wild. It's insane.
It's frustrating to feel, though, like it's not called the same way for stalling with that. Because generally you would think in a match like that, we're going to get, you know, at least a point out of it, if not more, but only have one warning in that and not even be there. It's frustrating to feel it.
He's gotten a lot better at his mat awareness and recognition and kind of how he controls that. He used to be the guy, like I remember when he was a sophomore, God, I think it was against Brady Berge at the first round of the Big Tens or whatever. He was down like a point or two and still managed to get called for stalling. It's like, you're losing. How are you getting called for stalling? But he would do it, you know? So he's made improvements to that. He's definitely controlling his positioning on the mat and what the refs are seeing much better than he was earlier in his career.
Yeah. But they win the first 5 and then end up going, 2 for 5 in the back half to take 7 of 10 bouts. I mean, I don't care who you are. You don't see that coming. You certainly don't. You know, it just, and they end up beating Iowa. And I'll tell you what, it was a very quiet night for Iowa. Like even just like watching, you're not seeing the bench at all. They're not showing the bench of Iowa. Like you're not even getting a coach going to the table. Like
Terry hasn't thrown anything.
Yeah, like there's not been a brick thrown. There's been no challenges from the table. Like it was an awkward night for Iowa, in my opinion, when it came to that. Because normally you get something. They're a lively crew. You know it. And I mean that's why we love them, right? You kind of love and hate them at the same time because you're just like, man, they're always in your face about something. But that is their style. That is how they wrestle. Coaches are the same way. Nothing was that way when they visited Michigan. And that was kind of weird to me. I'm like, you're not seeing the same exuberance from the bench that you normally see from the bench that you also see on the mat. It was just very awkward and very weird.
I think it's got to be pretty deflating, though, right? When the duel starts out the way it did, and now all of a sudden you're just kind of sitting there going, what just happened, right? Yeah. Again, we were talking on Thursday about how to this point in the season or up until Friday night, kind of everything fell in place for Iowa. They were getting guys stepping up into the lineup that weren't there before, and they were performing well. And you know, after all the questions that we had, they were really rolling and looked to be genuinely and truthfully deserving of that second spot, and we're keeping it going. And it all just fell apart in front of our eyes. And so I don't know what you say or do necessarily there, except kind of just take it on the chin and go, all right, well, I guess we're going to have to figure out what happened and how we're going to get back to where we were.
Yeah. I mean, no rest at all for Iowa, though. They now have Penn State. So you you don't dwell on it. It's one of those, all right, that was a bad day, not a bad season, and we're on to the next one.
And maybe they were just looking ahead too, for that matter, right? Like,
very true. Happens. But speaking of Penn State, they had Ohio State, and like I said, without getting into the referee stuff we'll get into later, that was a complete head scratcher. That match was exciting, and you expected it to be exciting for sure. But like, there's been that match included. There's been so much parity this year, just so much parity, and we expected going in that Penn State would, kind of flex like they normally do. And, I had even said, like, I don't expect, Ohio State to be within 10 points, and they weren't. But, like, there was just a lot of parity. And the match that stuck out for me was the Carter-Sirachi match. And, outside of, like I said, outside of the questionable calls, Carter kind of shut it down and was backing away, and it was very different. And, I know he said at Michigan that he was dealing with some health issues, but he had been back since then. So you would think, it's been a couple of weeks since then. But it was just very uncharacteristic for me. I was just like, this is very weird. He kind of just scored his points and got through the match. So very weird. But that was the match that stuck out for me in Penn State, Ohio State. Like I said, outside of the crazy calls that we'll get into later.
Yeah.
The one that stuck out. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
So the one that stuck out to me was sorry, we're talking over each other here. It was Kirk Fleet just handling Feldman. That was impressive to me, because Feldman is a like little fire hydrant, and Kirk Fleet just kind of took care of it. That one stood out to me.
Yeah. Kirk Fleet's on another level this year, and we've seen it tenfold every single match he's out there. And that's good experience, obviously, for a young heavyweight, right? And he's only going to get a chance. Feldman's only going to get a chance to wrestle Kirk Fleet, a couple times, right? He's not going to get him next year. This is the only year he's going to get that sort of experience. So I thought that was really good. But yeah, Kirk Fleet is just on a different level.
How have we not said Rogotsky's name yet, though? Right? Like, that dude's
hard to pronounce.
Insane. I don't understand. Like, you see this every couple of years where you'll get a guy who just is so fearless, and it's like, what are you doing in the room to make you feel like you, like, it's not like he's doing different moves that nobody's seen before. He's just hitting them. It was it's like Mitch Moore from a couple of years ago. Not Mitch Moore. Minnesota guy. Mitch
McKee?
Mitch McKee, yeah, who had that head pinch that was just, for whatever reason, better than everyone else's, right? And, like, you get this every so often, and I don't know, man. It's nuts to see. It didn't even look like it was anything, like, dynamic. He just kind of caught him and turned him and stuck him. And Truax is consistently a top performer, as we've seen, for years. So
even in that match, he was doing really well until that moment.
Yeah, he really was. So I don't know, man. I'm just scared for what that guy's going to turn into too, right? I mean, if he just keeps this high level of match-ending skills in his arsenal and kind of develop some of the other stuff along the way too, then.
Well, that's kind of Ohio State in general, though, right now. I mean, they're so young. And we knew, with the classes they put together over the last couple of years, that they're going to be dangerous with these young guys. But we're seeing them step into the lineup with some of these older guys getting hurt. And they're showing off right away. And they're showing that they're ready for, they're ready to be there. So it's going to be really interesting to watch them over the next couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that was impressive. It just kind of flipped into his back. And, like you said, you wonder who he's wrestling with in the room, but then how does that all transfer to the mat where it's a completely different feel, right? Like, he's probably wrestling Gavin Hoffman. He's probably wrestling Feldman. Like, he's got guys that are tenfold different than anyone he's going to see, once he gets out on the mat. And what's the feel that he's getting or that he's giving that allows him to hit these things? Because he is a gunslinger, man. He's like, I'm gonna ride or die by the things that I do, and it's either gonna work or it's not, and it's not fundamental, but it's going to happen either for me or to me. And that was literally what happened. You saw him just kind of throw him to his back, and it was just like, wait a second. Like, Truex getting turned right now, and now he's on his back, and, oh, he's adjusting enough to pin him. And then it was over. It's like, all right, so that just happened, right? And that was certainly a bright spot for Ohio State. There wasn't too many of them during the duel. Penn State just kind of, like, flexed all over them in a lot of different weight classes, and, you know, minus, like I said, the Carter Sirachi match where I was just like, this is a little weird. I don't know what we're seeing here. It's just like he knew he could do enough to get the win and get out of there. So he kind of did. So I don't know. What else kind of went down, Kevin? I know you wanted to talk about MSU Indiana. You said that was a fun one.
Yeah, that was just a fun one because I hadn't seen anything like that in a while. MSU wins the first 5 matches, including DJ Shannon getting an upset over DJ Washington, which, you know, Shannon transfers in last year to MSU. Basically, I think it was his knee he blew out, like basically ended his season at the MSU Open, like right away. And I was bummed because I had been super excited to watch MSU versus Illinois, because I was like, okay, well, Shannon transfers out. They bring in Edmund Ruth, right? Kind of slides into his spot. So there's, I'm sure, a little bit of, you know, bad blood on some level there, right? Like, you're never happy when they recruit somebody over you, even if it is someone's brother, right? So, but then we never even got to see that. So to get Shannon back in there and have a nice win like that was pretty cool to see. But selfishly, I'm kind of freaking out because I picked Indiana in our InterMat weekly picks. And I'm like, man, I should have had more faith in my dudes. And then Indiana comes back. They win an overtime match, I think, at heavyweight. And then they just, you know, go all the way through to 141 where Graham Rooks gets the walk-off pin at home for the Hoosiers. So that was a wild one. I absolutely recommend. If people didn't see it, it was on Big Ten Network Sunday afternoon. So check that one out.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Yeah, I have to go back and watch some of that. I did see the DJ versus DJ match. I made sure to watch that because I had seen the clip and I was just like, how did we get here, right? You know, how did this final takedown happen? But I want to go back to the ACC and talk UNC versus NC State a little bit. Sonny Santiago definitely kind of the guy for them. I mean, I think it's even started at 57, and they're even saying this is a good spot to start. Ed Scott can get things going. This is one of the studs in their lineup, and Sonny Santiago had other plans, you know. And I just did his dad's podcast, the Two Nobodies podcast, maybe a couple weeks ago, and we were, you know, talking some wrestling. After that, we were texting and talking some wrestling, and you know, and I've known Sonny and his dad for a very long time. So like I've seen him kind of ascend at UNC, and you know, seeing him wrestle Ed Scott. I actually watched that match again today and rewound that takedown at the end. I'm like, how did this happen? I have zero idea how he throws him to his back to pick up those points. But Robbie, I kind of want your take and perspective. Obviously, it wasn't very nice for UNC outside of that one, outside of that match. But like that match alone was a crazy start.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to take a lot of stock in it just because Ed can lose weird matches. Like he's shown that he can beat anybody in the country, and then he'll have a really weird match and a really weird loss. Not to take
he's taken some losses already this year. Yeah.
I mean, he didn't start his year off well, but then kind of went on a run and had looked better. But not to take anything away from Sonny because he wrestled a great match. And he's, you know, we've seen him pick up a few good wins in opens and duels here and there, but he hasn't really put anything together to really show us that he's on, you know, the level of an Ed Scott, a Bryce Andonian, who are the top dogs at 157 in the ACC. But he knocked one off, so maybe he's ready to go there. So it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out, because Bryce is likely not coming back until the ACC tournament. after the knee injury against Shapiro, whatever the I, long or short there. So he probably won't see him in the duel, and that's going to make seeding really weird for the tournament because that could very well put Bryce and Ed on the same side. So we'll see how it all shakes out. It could be chaos, but he certainly inserted himself into the top 3 there at 157 this week.
Yeah. Now, even before the duel, and you know that it's a rivalry. It's been a rivalry for a very long time, but that rivalry means something differently to Rob Koll, who went to UNC. And Rob Koll was doing his Rob Koll thing beforehand, and he was talking and he, saying, put Pat back in his place and take him down a couple notches and all this and all that. Personally, I love trash talk. I think it's awesome. I don't love when everybody goes full heel, but create these storylines. And I think with a UNC versus NC State battle, when you look at that kind of in any other sport, you look at that in football, that's a big deal, especially because those two teams are, they're pretty decent now. They're pretty good. We'll see what happens with Drake May leaving, but still a pretty good rivalry, right? But wrestling wise, it's been, and it still remains to be, NC State's world. But they end up obviously selling it out, and there's a lot of hype around it. How do you guys feel about the trash talk coming from Rob Koll going into this one?
I mean, it certainly fueled the fire for the NC State guys. They took it personally, which, I mean, they've developed an amazing program in the time that Pat's been there. He's put together everything that he could possibly do to put that program in a position to be successful nationally, and they're consistently a top 10, top 5 program. So for Koll to come back in and say, we're going to knock them down a peg, and they're not real wrestling fans, they're just NC State fans, or the other way around, whatever it was that they got them all in a tizzy. They certainly responded, and you saw, the wrestlers were all fired up about it. They were showing more emotion than usual. Even Ryan Jack showed a tiny bit of emotion, which is crazy for him. But Trent was yelling at somebody. Kai was being Kai and doing his Dragon Man thing, and I don't know. It was fun. You could really feel it from the NC State fans that they like to have more fuel in the rivalry, because I don't think they've felt that in the last few years. I think they've kind of felt that they own UNC to on their side. So it's nice to get them fired up a little bit more about it than they have been.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what the motivation was for Koll to do that, because what did he think was going to happen?
They
were probably going to get their butts kicked before he was talking trash. So,
he knew that. I mean, Rob is Rob.
I'm sure.
He's
yeah, at some level, there's got to be he's doing this to motivate his guys. He's doing this to remind them, hey, we should feel like this is our spot, right? I'm sure that had to have been some level of motivation. You got to walk in there like, this is our conference. This is where we're going to be. They're pretenders, right? But maybe you do that after a year, when you've got a little bit more of a foundation laid. I don't know. But hey,
I like it. I like, bring a little bit more fire in there. I mean, I don't think he said anything that was real out of line or, over the top. It was pretty much, I want to build our program back up so we're competitive and we can beat a program that's established themselves as, one of the top ones in the conference. He didn't say it with the greatest, delicacy, I guess, being delicate. Delicacy is not the right word there. Probably could have said it a little bit better and still got the message across without getting NC State fans angry. But I think he's trying to set the tone for the program and where he wants to go with it. Mm-hmm. And you see them. It's a different feel to the program this year already. So it's going to be interesting to see the direction that they go in.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have an issue with the trash talk. Honestly, I love a little bit of trash talk, and I think it definitely does set the tone. I'm not saying go full Ferrari with your trash talk, but let's keep it.
The second I see Rob Koll do double birds in the splits, I might have to retire.
Yeah,
listen,
he was athletic.
Listen, that's what I'm saying. Like, let's keep it in context here, right? Like, you don't want to go crazy, but like, as an athlete, I was a trash talker, so I love a good trash talk. I love getting under somebody's skin and creating some hype, and because inevitably you have to go back that up. And Sonny Santiago backed it up for his squad coming out of the gate. The rest of his team, not so much, but you definitely saw that what Rob said really fired his team up. And I mean, behind closed doors, NC State was probably, laughing about it, right? They probably, but when they get out there on the mat and you saw the video that they put out, just about every guy won, they had some sort of celebration that was coming. I mean, Trent Hidley always has a celebration that never changes, but the rest of the squad, they were ready to celebrate, right? And it was just like, it's almost like, Pat let them know, go be yourself, right? Like,
but even Trent
win,
was amped up even more than he usually is. I mean, he's always going to raise the roof and do his guitar and all that, but he was jawing straight at somebody, so he felt it too, and he was sending that message that he's the one on top, and he's going to go out that way.
Yeah, I love Kai Orini. I love to see the kid win because he's going full heritage with the tongue out and everything else. I think it's awesome, and I think he played it up this time, and so I think it's awesome, right? Like in a world where we're seeing team points getting taken away in high school matches for celebration, I loved seeing everything NC State was doing after winning, right? And so give it to me, right? Like give me some attitude, give me some personality, because that's what's putting those butts in those seats. That's why you guys are sold out. It was the trash talk, and it was all of that moxie that you had. So keep bringing it, because that's what's going to keep bringing your fans out.
And duels are fun.
Duels are a lot of fun. I mean, I know there's like, everybody's got their duels don't matter, this, that, whatever. They're exhibition matches. They only matter to count towards seeds and everything else. But like, man, you build a good storyline and it's going to sell out a crowd. It really is going to sell out a crowd. And duels matter. They certainly do to a certain extent to build those storylines and give us something week to week to look forward to. And, they allow these guys to get better week in and week out and go out there and see kind of what they do. So, I loved it, honestly. But yeah, I thought that outside of it being a completely lopsided score, I thought that, the atmosphere was awesome. The trash talk, the celebrations, there was enough personality to go around. It was awesome. So like, keep that stuff up. I'm hopeful that we get a little bit more of that this week, and we'll obviously get there. But before we move on, Robbie, you got anything else from the ACC?
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to hit on and just compliment somebody is Marlon Yarbrough. He's kind of flown under the radar this year, but he's had a great year, and came out after UVA had dropped the first 8 matches against Virginia Tech, and just took it to Sam Lozona and wrestled an amazing match. From opening whistle, he was firing off shots and didn't stop for 7 minutes. So that was a huge win for him. It was great to see, him celebrating and him getting pumped up. He's just coming back from an injury that he got at Midlands when he was wrestling really well. So it's going to be really fun to watch him and have another person at 133 who's going to be, pushing the tempo and being dangerous.
Awesome. So, all right, friends, let's get into these crazy calls that we saw over the weekend.
I didn't hear it. There was bad calls this weekend.
There were horrible, atrocious calls. Honestly, what really is a takedown these days, right? Like, come on, like we need reaction time. Like his reaction time was when the guy was shooting. That's when you react. That's reaction time. He takes a shot. You sprawl. Stuff his head, run the corner, reattack. Those are your reactions. When he's got both your legs, or you're on your back and you're fighting off your back, like we saw at Penn State, your reaction is to fight off your back. If you're fighting off your back in a situation like that, you're probably taken down. Just saying, right? And but everybody's saying, oh, he's got to have control and this, that, and whatever. Well, you don't truly have control in neutral danger either. Mm-hmm. The other guy's just in danger. We don't want guys laying on their back, right? It's the Dean Heil rule. Oklahoma State has definitely commissioned, I don't know how many rules over the last couple of years, JO and the not so takedown in the finals. New rule came in. Dean Heil rolling around on his back. New rule came in. Chris Perry throwing legs in. New rule came in. You name Oklahoma State wrestler, you can probably pinpoint some sort of new rule. So neutral danger, it's just neutral danger, right? It's a count for a guy to get off his back. And what you're saying is nobody has control right now, but you're in danger. So explain to me how there was no takedown in that match at 125 where a guy literally didn't have a leg, wasn't holding onto a leg, was on his stomach and had to get off his stomach and rolled to his back, and it had to fight off his back, and they still didn't give a takedown. I'm like, wait a second. How is this even possible right now that they're not going to give a takedown in this situation? Where are we at right now that you need 3 to 5 seconds to react before you give up a takedown?
Unless it's at the end of the period.
Unless it's at the end of a period, right? Like,
right.
That was insane. Like, I just don't get it.
It's so inconsistent. Everybody seems. In fact, one of the officials told us at the Michigan Rutgers duel, like, "Oh, nothing's changed. It's the same," and we're like,
"It's not."
Yeah, that's not true.
Maybe nothing's changed, but something has.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing a different thing from what it had been previously. I just find it so funny that like we wanted to add, the 3-point takedown and then make it so much harder for anyone to get one. It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I don't understand.
What blows my mind?
It's like driving to the store, but in reverse. It's like, yeah, you're.
I just don't understand how we're expecting people to fully establish control, whatever that means at this point, when 90% of a reaction to a takedown is going to be some sort of thunk and scramble. Like, you're never really, for the most part, firmly gaining control for anything other than, a fleeting second or two. So what are we truly looking for? Most takedowns don't result in you holding a guy down for 3 minutes. It's not real.
The hardest part for me right now is I kind of expected it to, at this point in the season, to be a little bit more figured out, right? Mm-hmm. It's like when the stalling, push out sort of stuff started happening a couple years back. Like, that was a mess at first. But as the season went on, and as more seasons went on, the refs kind of figured out, okay, this is what it needs to look like more consistently. This is, hey, action took it out of bounds, so we're not just going to, throw a hand up and pick somebody to call for stalling here. But it hasn't gotten better. It's gotten worse to this point. The reaction time seems to be getting longer. The one with Penn where the guy, got the takedown, threw the dude to his back, and then they were like reviewing it, and the Penn coach
for swipes,
like back points maybe, and then they were like, nope, nothing.
Yeah,
that's not true.
Yeah, I was just reading Mark Hall's tweet. Like, he was like, we thought they were reviewing it for back points, and they came back and said there's no points. Right. Like, at all. Like, how is this a thing? Like, how is this even possible? The other one was the one in the Jack McNeil match where there's a cradle locked up. He has to go, suicide, roll him through with the cradle. The cylinder rule comes into play because his foot isn't planted, but he's still within the cylinder. I thought it was a takedown, honestly, because of the cylinder rule, because he had a foot in and he was then airborne and his foot came back down. The other foot came back down inbounds. So the cylinder was in play that whole time. So I honestly thought that it was a takedown, but it's just like, and mostly thought it was a takedown because when you lock up a cradle, you have to get a guy down to a hip. So his foot was still on the mat as he cracked him down to his hip. So that's why I was like, all right, that's 3 points. But
and that was the argument too that they tried to make during the review. It wasn't that he kept the foot in the cylinder, which it appeared that he did. Granted there was a switch, but
yeah,
your legs are the same length, so theoretically, but it looks to me like you said, as soon as he cracked him down, as soon as that's locked up and cracked down, I've always thought that's a takedown. That's what I've always known that to be a takedown. Your pending combination's locked up. You've cracked him down to a hip. What else do you need to do? So I don't know.
But I think it's
that one
because
surprised
of that. Yeah, and the only explanation that I could kind of even think of in my head is like the reaction time thing comes back, right? Like it's, and I understand they said like out of bounds and everything else, but like the reaction time of, okay, he's got a cradle locked up, now he's cracked down to his hip, but that would be considered a takedown in the middle of the mat. But now we have to have like this 3 seconds or whatever of reaction time. So would they have even called it a takedown in the middle of the mat, right? Like that's where I'm like, I'm severely confused on how these rules now overlap and intertwine and what truly is a takedown, because you're seeing all these different interpretations. It is consistently inconsistent to the point where like you want us, when I'm doing commentary, you want us to be able to explain to the viewers and the people watching the rules and what's happening, but not even the people that are enforcing the rules are calling them correctly or consistently enough for anyone to get a grasp on it, including the people enforcing them.
Well, including the wrestlers. Like, the wrestlers don't know anymore. Like
Neither
Jordan
the
Hamden
coaches
in the MSU match, right? Like I think that was maybe one of the many that we could have possibly been referring to, right? But literally, like the last second in the match, Indiana wrestler kind of gets like a throw by thing and gets behind as time expires, and it's like they gave him the takedown, and it's like, well, if the whistle doesn't blow, Hamden probably, tries to Granby or roll through or create some sort of a scramble. He thought time was up. So
that one blew my mind because it looked to me like he wasn't even all the way behind. It looked like his legs were still to the side as time expired. So
it was, and legitimately that decided the duel. Like that.
Yeah.
That happened
right
before
telling.
Brooks got the pin.
It's telling, though, because if you look at this, kind of take a step back and look at this in a broader scope. You have wrestlers who've been doing this for 15, 20 years that are in college now. 15 years that are in college now. You have coaches who've been doing this for 20, 30 years. You have media people who've been around the sport for 30-some years. Like, you see all these things, and all these people are so confused, and we don't know what's going on. That should tell you something. Like, if it's an outlier here and there, okay, that was a weird one, that was a bad call, whatever. But when there's this rash of these same situations, they're called differently, nobody really has an idea of what's what and why it is. I mean, that's a problem. We are, 3 weeks away from conferences. This isn't opening week. We need to figure this out.
Yeah. The other one that I kind of scratched my head at was going back to neutral danger was in the Bartlett match. I honestly thought that the referee started his count over again, right? Like he's in neutral danger. He counts 1, 2. He comes off of that as they shift position, starts counting again, but he ends up giving the takedown. And I was just like, that was very weird to me. It looked like, and a lot of people were saying, wait, like, didn't he restart his count? How did this count continue to go? Like, what's really happening here? So I had thought that he came out of criteria and then went back into criteria. But obviously, I'm not 3 feet from it. So I can't call it, obviously. But that was another one where I was like, I don't know if that's like, if that was, if I agree with that. I shouldn't say right call because I'm obviously not a referee, but like, I don't know if I agree with the call. Because like I said, it looked like he was in danger for sure. 1, 2 count, he comes out of danger, which is exactly what that's supposed to do, right? That count is supposed to take him and warn him that he is in danger of giving up a neutral zone takedown. He comes out of it, but then I don't know. It was just very weird. The count came back, or did he restart the count? Who really knows outside of the people that are right there.
Well, that's one too where as soon as they go to review it, I'm saying to myself like, yeah, they're not gonna keep this. Like they're gonna reverse it and they're gonna keep wrestling, and then it's like, oh, the match is over. Sweet.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. The calls for a independent review become greater and greater with every single one of these things that you see. Because I mean, the probability of a referee changing his own call is very slim. And the probability of even a side ref stepping in and saying, no, that was wrong, right? Like normally those guys, like they're there to, help out, be in a different position, see it how it needs to be seen. But even when a call like that comes, it's pretty rare that they step in and correct the call on the mat if it was wrong. So independent review, it's just gaining more speed in my opinion. And I hope that for every match at NCAAs that we have it, I hope that we have like 3 separate booths set up of independent referees that it can go to a booth review and they can look at it and it's not looked at down on the mat because, we're going to have multiple reviews all going on at the same time. We've got eight mats that are going on. So like give us independent for NCAAs so that things like this at the biggest times don't happen.
And they should be celebrities. Jay Moore, Ashton Kutcher, just bring in the big guns.
They
shouldn't even
have to read the
rules. They could just make decisions. Is this a takedown or not?
Yeah. Does this look like he took him down?
Yeah.
This is, you get a crash course and that's what it is. But no, like honestly, like, I mean, think about it. If you give a kid in class a chance to grade his own paper, he's going to come out with 100 most of the time because he's changing, he's giving himself the right answer. So it's just like, it's the same with, with the refs. And sometimes these guys are spot on. Sometimes they do a really good job. This weekend really wasn't, as a collective group, there was a lot of head scratchers.
Yeah.
So coming up, we've got some more action this weekend. And I'm diving right back into the trash talk that we had. We've had some trash talk between Gabe Arnold and Carter Sirachi. I guess it's kind of, I don't even know Carter has definitely returned volley a little bit, but probably not as much as Gabe. Gabe even put some dots in a tweet this weekend after Carter won 4-2 and was backing up. But give me that match this week. Give me all of it this week. That is what I want to see coming up. I need to see that match. It's only going to happen once in folk style because chances are Gabe Arnold is not coming out of redshirt this year. Make that I think it's his 4th attached date. Make that happen. Please throw Ben Keeter out there against Kirkfleet as well. Like these guys are only going to get one chance to see the number 1 ranked wrestlers in their weight class. Make it happen. Tom, Terry, Kale, like my friends, we're buds right now. I'm speaking to my friends. Make it happen, please.
Well, Kale just wants to have fun. And this sounds like fun.
We were over that. Kale just wants to have fun. I need a T-shirt that says that. That's what I want. I think I need a graphic. Who's the guy that does all the graphics on Twitter?
Ross.
Ross. Yeah, I need a Ross graphic.
We can make that happen.
That says Kale just wants to have fun.
We can make that happen for you.
That's what I need. I need a Kale just wants to have fun graphic because ultimately at the end of the day, I think that's all he wants. But honestly, like, give me Gabe Arnold.
Tough wrestling.
They want tough wrestling and it's nothing but fun and tough wrestling in Carver Hawkeye this weekend, right? Like,
yeah.
Give me everything. Give me all of it. So that's my wish for this weekend. You guys got anything?
No, Gabe Arnold is what I would like to see this weekend. Yeah, I just realized I was looking at my phone because this is the first Friday in a couple weeks where my son doesn't have wrestling. So I'm like, hey, I can actually be home and not have to watch it on any sort of a delay or anything like that. So
yeah, you couldn't even watch Lemley live. I sent you a text and you were like, "What happened?"
I was like,
need to know. And I go. I'm not saying a word. I'm just gonna let you watch it.
Yeah. Well, that was also the fun part because I thought he was. At that point, I'm like, well, he probably wins, but I didn't expect him to win like that. So, but I'm glad we were able to get this back to where it needed to be with Sergio. But no, this weekend is just going to be some awesome wrestling. Iowa, Penn State's going to be great. I expect Penn State coming off of that loss, Iowa coming off of that loss is going to be even more motivated and ready to go. So I expect them to show up with everybody guns a-blazing.
Anything from the ACC?
Not crazy stuff this weekend. There's Matthews McNeil will be really good. Laughlin's lost 2 in a row, which is not something I think he's done in college yet. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can bounce back and what Kohl are we going to see. UVA is down at NC State. Virginia Tech has Duke at Moss Art Center, which is their stage duel, which they do every year, which is awesome. And then they have George Mason on Sunday. And then UNC and Pitt. Pitt's at UNC. So they've gone to North Carolina back-to-back weekends, which is super fun travel for them.
Yeah.
One shout-out I did want to give as I'm wearing a Virginia Tech shirt. My guy Ethan Agigi, their SID/marketing/ everything guy, is wrestling at Oceana's tomorrow. He represents Guam, and he wrestles tomorrow night at 7. Super excited to watch him. Best of luck to him. He's a fantastic person. He's also up for SID of the Year for the Media Awards. I highly recommend everybody vote for him because he's damn good at his job. So.
Nice. Get you a man that could do both. I think the last thing I want to mention is Michigan, Nebraska, and that's because we're gonna hopefully get Gomez Ridge Lovett. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of people saying make Gomez number 1 until he proves he's not number 1.
Pass.
That's not really how rankings work. Yeah. But sure,
if
right?
If he beats Ridge,
if he beats Ridge, then make him number 1. I have zero qualms about it, but he's got to beat Ridge first. Yeah. And both these guys have been wrestling lights out. I kind of expect Gomez to come out guns blazing, like full on double unders, hips in, trying to throw you on your dome piece, Mr. Gomez. That's what I expect. That's ultimately what I expect. So
I kind of expect Ridge to do the same, though.
Yeah,
like, he's not going to shy away from upper body.
No, I wouldn't say that either.
Yeah. I mean, those two, every time we've had the chance to watch those two guys battle each other has been awesome. So
yeah. It's been a meat fire. It'll probably be a meat fire with fire type of match. So
just firing bazookas at each other from 5 feet away.
Yeah, nothing but grenades for this one. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. That one will be on Big Ten Network before Penn State, Iowa. So hopefully we get some fireworks between Michigan and Nebraska at 49. And then make some really cool stuff happen between Penn State and Iowa, both at heavyweight and at 74. So that is, I think, everything. I think we've covered it all. I think the only other thing we didn't mention is that Vito Rugel is back in the lineup, and he had a tough one against Mizzou. He really had to kind of hit another gear to make that win happen. But then outside of that, he's been Vito. So welcome back, Vito. Good to see you back in the lineup. And doing Vito type stuff. So hopefully he can maintain being healthy for the rest of the season, and we get a really, really good win at EIWAs, because I think everyone really wants to see that match again, and it'll be nothing but fireworks. So, friends, I think, like I said, I think we covered it all. I think we got to it. We'll be back again next week talking about the chaos that went down. Hopefully no wild referee calls or anything else. Hopefully we get some sort of consistency over the weekend, at least over the week, where we go into the weekend with full referee confidence that they're going to make the right damn call. So that's all I got. You guys got any parting words for the viewers?
Nothing I can think of. Stay cool, rock on.
Yeah, what he said.